Why does this exist? Why do this to the king of the monsters? Why make a movie that has nothing to do or has any relation to this famous monster? Put simply, money. And as you can see, the way I'm holding it, this is a rancid turd. We are dealing with some grade A trash. And it sucks because it's from the makers of a movie that I actually like. This one right here, Independence Day. This is a movie that I know has flaws and I know is not technically good, but I always have a pretty good time watching this. It's over the top, but it's over top in a way that I can actually enjoy it. It has its problems, sure, but I always have enjoyed Independence Day. Not the sequel Resurgence. Resurgence can go fuck itself, but this movie, I have a soft spot for it. It's a fun, good time. I can't say it's a good movie, but it is fun, and I'm glad to have it in my collection. So you may be asking, okay, why do we even have this rancid dog turd then? Well, it was a Christmas present. Now, at the time, I never told anyone how I actually felt about this movie, so I cannot blame my relatives for thinking that this was right up my alley because they know I like some monster movies. And I do love, like, the classic Universal stuff, so I'm not going to hold my relatives against this because they didn't know that this was crap, and they didn't know that I don't like it. But somehow, maybe it's out of sentimentality, maybe it's because I didn't want to seem like a complete dick. I ended up watching this more times than any rational human being should. It's that one terrible movie that you know is a terrible movie, and yet you just have fun with it. I can't really explain it. I guess the best way to put it is it's kind of like this movie, Judge Dredd. It's a terrible movie. We all know this is a terrible movie and a bastardization of its source material, but it is laughably bad at least, and it can be fun sometimes, so that's the best way I can put it. My feelings for this is a lot like this. To me, these are the same movie, with the only difference of one being worse than the other. This is bad, but entertaining. This is shit, and only entertaining because it's fun to laugh at it. Let's just get it over with. It's time to rip this thing a new one, because even though I'm not a Godzilla fan, I know how much of a kick in the fucking balls that this movie is to you guys. To you actual Godzilla fans. Because this is one of the most rancid, shitty remakes I have ever seen. And I have a lot to say, so buckle the fuck up for a pretty long, very, very negative review. So, let's take care of this piece of lizard shit, shall we? Welcome back to Animation Station. Welcome back to Atomic Kings. Here is my overwhelmingly negative review of Godzilla 98. One of the worst pieces of shit I have seen in a while. Here's my review. I hope you enjoy. You ever have that one terrible movie that you continue to watch again and again despite knowing that it's not even close to good? Well, that's my relationship with this fossilized bastardization that dares to call itself Godzilla. I completely agree with the main consensus that this movie is completely unredeemable, baffling lizard shit. But I still keep finding myself watching it a lot. It's difficult to explain. Guess I just get some kind of sick enjoyment at laughing at all its bafflingly brain-dead decisions. So I guess you can say that this falls into the category of a guilty pleasure. Don't get me wrong, the movie's still shit, and I'm gonna tell you why, but it's at least a enjoyable piece of shit. The story's awful, acting is unacceptably poor, writing is lousy, dialogue is mind-bogglingly stupid with many terrible lines that live in infamy. That's a lot of fish. Effects are horrible. Godzilla's design is so bad that it actually makes the eyesore of Kong from King Kong vs. Godzilla look like a masterpiece in comparison. That's no joke. That is legit my feelings on it. I don't even need to tell you. Just look at the back of this damn DVD. That's Godzilla's design. How was this acceptable? Tell me. How was that acceptable? That looks nothing like Godzilla. It just looks like your standard generic monster. That has no relation to Godzilla at all. Outside of, I don't know, the little bits of blue on the spikes. That's it. And then again, the CGI is so shit that you can't even see it half the time. The action disaster scenes, usually the best parts of any Godzilla movie, are generic and boring. The plot is haphazard, makes absolutely zero sense. Pacing is torturously slow and wastes far too much time on egregious nonsense that has no impact on this actual plot. The runtime is obnoxious and way too long at almost 3 fucking hours. Now, look, 3 hours nowadays is common for a movie. Okay, that's common. But this wasn't made in the 2020s. This was made in 1998. And it had the balls to be nearly 3 hours long. I don't know what dumb bastard thought that was a good idea. Or that this movie actually justified being 3 hours. Like, this is not a 3-hour movie. It's a movie that's at best 2. And even that's being generous. How long was Independence Day? Let me look. How long was Independence Day? Independence Day, runtime. Oh, there it is. 145 minutes. This was longer than Godzilla 98, but it used its time effectively to push its story forward. This just wastes time to waste time. Makes no sense. The only enjoyment is ironically laughing at it. Rewatchability is 0, unless you're like me and just a masochist that wants to torture yourself. The final act is shit and makes no sense and is a blatant rip-off of Jurassic Park. And it's, at its very core, a very blatant copy of every single American monster movie ever made. And keep in mind, this is supposed to be the same Japanese monster. What fucking pot were you smoking? This feels nothing like Godzilla. Nothing. Now, sure, you could probably make the argument, well, you haven't seen every single Godzilla movie, so how can you say that for sure? Okay, that's fair, but from the Godzilla movies that I have seen, this is still not all like he is in those other movies. I may have my problems with King Kong vs. Godzilla, but at least Godzilla was somewhat in character. He's not just another movie monster, is what I'm saying. He has actual purpose. He was originally made to teach people the dangers of atomic warfare. He served a purpose. And even in all these Toho movies that are so goofy and silly, he still has a purpose, and he still feels like a character. Here he's just a generic monster. That's literally all he is. All he is a generic monster from every other monster movie you can possibly think of. Point is, it's stupid. And it's clear they didn't give a single fuck about trying to stay at all respectful or in line with what Godzilla is supposed to be. Just blows my mind. And, like cheap copies of most things, it does everything far worse than its contemporaries. It literally steals a bunch of scenes from other generic monster movies and finds ways to do them 10 times worse. Because it's clear that nobody gave a fuck with this movie. Nobody. It's just trying to be this big, epic monster movie, but it doesn't even succeed at doing that. It just blows my mind, like, what the hell were they thinking to think that this was acceptable? Not just as a Godzilla movie, but as a monster movie by itself. It makes no fucking sense. So is there anything good in this movie? Anything at all? Well, the concept wasn't dead on paper, and would even be refined to an extent in the 2014 movie, which we'll get to. It is one of the funniest things I've seen in a while because of its pure incompetence leading to non-stop laughter. Like, if you don't take this movie seriously, you get some buddies together, you have some drinks, it is a good movie just to laugh at. And it serves that purpose of being a movie that you can get drunk with your friends and just laugh at it. And I'll give it this, the animated menus on the DVD release is pretty cool. This was made back when animated menus for DVD releases was common, and they did a pretty good job with the menus. The menus on this DVD are cool. They are the only thing that makes this DVD even worth having. The animated menus are cool. That's it. And they're cool because they have more effort put into it than the actual movie itself. To say the least, this is one of the worst monster movies ever made, and undoubtedly one of the worst Godzilla movies too. It's not the worst. There's one that's even worse, believe it or not, and we will get to it. But it is one of the worst Godzilla movies, and one of the worst monster movies I have ever sat through. And that's including all the silly, over-the-top Toho shit, okay? It is a disrespectful bastardization of the franchise that's fucked up to the point of being completely unrecognizable as the same thing. Hell, correct me if I'm wrong here, one of the Toho Godzilla movies that came out after this movie came out openly mocked this piece of shit. And yet, I find myself watching it again and again because of how fun it is to laugh at. It's asinine, boneheaded decisions. That's the only worth that this movie has outside of the animated menus of the DVD. It's funny and fun to laugh at. It is a movie that is made to be scorned and mocked. You don't take it seriously, and yet it wants you to take it seriously, but you can't. Because every decision in this piece of shit makes no fucking sense. I have nothing left to say. This movie's shit. We all know it's shit. But somehow, it is one of the most ironically, hilariously shitty movies I've seen in a long time. So, with all that said, let's get to the final verdict for this movie. Final verdict for this absolute bastardization of the franchise, for this disrespectful, absolute trash fire, is a 2.5 out of 10. And the only reason it's not a flat 2 is because it's fun to laugh at it. For trash-digging masochists only, and in a void like the plague to the Godzilla fans, complete trash. Complete and utter trash. So, if you are a masochist that loves to torture yourself with bad movies, this one's definitely for you. If you're a Godzilla fan, and someone tries to give you this movie, throw it into the sea to sink to the bottom and never be seen again. And if you are a Godzilla fan, avoid it like the plague. This is not Godzilla, it is generic monster number 552. So, yeah. Only watch this if you're a trash-digging masochist, is what I'm saying. Well, that's it. And that gives us our longest review of Atomic Kings to date. So, thank you guys so much for watching. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more videos like this almost every single day. Stay tuned, because thankfully, the other side of this monster duology, got the better end of the stick. It just took a couple more years. So, yeah, thankfully, the next one we have to look at, yes, it's another remake, but it is way better than this piece of shit. But it is also 3 hours long, so, it's gonna be quite the endurance test, is what I'm saying. But, from what I've heard, it's a pretty good time. I've only seen bits and pieces of it, but I can already tell you right now, it is already leagues better than this shit. So, see you next time when we take a look at Peter Jackson's King Kong. I'm hoping it's as good as I've been told. See you next time.
We cannot take it anymore. The time has come.